The soft murmur of conversation mixed with the quiet clinking of silverware in the dimly lit Manhattan bistro. It was a kind of place where the lighting was flattering, the plates looked like something out of a magazine, and every patron carried themselves like they belonged in a Vogue spread. But Emma Blake didn't feel like she belonged at all. Her reflection in the polished glass outside had whispered reminders of reality. Her thrift dress, the worn-out heels she glued back together, the nervous flutter in her chest. But she had made a promise to her best friend, Julia, that she'd go through with this blind date. Clutching her phone like a lifeline, Emma stepped inside, scanning the room. "Table 5, table 5, she whispered under her breath, her heart thudding in her chest. Toward the back of the restaurant, she spotted a man sitting alone, dark hair neatly combed, dressed like he belonged in a Wall Street office, eyes fixed on his phone. That's got to be him. Taking a breath deep enough to calm a small storm, she walked over and smiled. "Hi, you must be Ryan. I'm Emma. It's nice to meet you." Liam Carter looked up, caught off guard. He blinked, clearly puzzled for a second too long. Hi." Emma mistook his hesitation for nerves and quickly took the seat across from him, her fingers twisting in her lap like nervous dancers. "I know, blind dates are the worst, right? Julia warned me you might be a little quiet. Don't worry, I talk enough for two." Liam opened his mouth to clarify, but paused. His associate had just canceled a meeting via text, and something about this woman, her open face, her earnest smile, made him stay quiet. She wasn't like the sharp, polished women he usually met at charity galas or corporate mixers. She seemed real. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. "Yeah, blind dates. Definitely something else." Emma laughed nervously, reaching for her water glass. "Tell me about it. Julia's been trying to set me up for months, but I've been working nonstop." "Work?" Liam asked, his interest piqued despite himself. "I'm a waitress," Emma said, eyes flicking down as she picked at the corner of her napkin. "Not exactly glamorous, but it pays the rent. Well, most of it. Anyway, enough about me. What do you do?" Liam hesitated for a heartbeat. "I work in tech." "Tech? Huh? Like apps and websites?" Emma smiled. "I'm terrible with computers. I'm the person who breaks a printer just by looking at it." "Something like that," Liam said, chuckling now, relaxing into the moment. As the minutes passed, the conversation flowed like warm coffee on a cold day. Emma told stories about late-night diner shifts, crazy customers, dreams of someday opening her own art studio. Liam found himself laughing more than he had in months. She was refreshingly unfiltered, her hopefulness somehow contagious. "You're not what I expected," Emma said after a pause, tilting her head. Liam raised an eyebrow. "Oh, yay? What were you expecting?" "Well, Julia said you were the quiet type," she replied, cheeks flushed. "But you're easy to talk to." He smiled gently. "So are you." Emma's heart fluttered a little. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. She was just about to ask more about his mysterious tech job when her phone buzzed on the table. A text lit up the screen. "Hey, Emma. Just got here. I'm at table 5. Looking forward to meeting you. Ryan." Emma stared at the message, blinking in confusion. Slowly, she looked up, her stomach lurching. You're not Ryan, are you?" she asked, her voice barely audible. Liam's smile faded, guilt flickering in his eyes. "No, I'm not." Her breath caught in her throat. "Oh, my God." She shot up from her chair, panic rising in her chest. I'm so sorry. I thought, oh no, this is so embarrassing." "Wait," Liam said, standing to, reaching toward her. "Emma, it's okay. But she was already grabbing her coat and backing away. Her cheeks burned like wildfire. "I really have to go." And just like that, she turned and hurried out the door. Liam stood there for a moment, watching the space she had just occupied, something strange settling in his chest. He had meant to tell her. But now, as she disappeared into the city night, he found himself wondering, why did it suddenly feel like something important had just slipped through his fingers? That evening, in his quiet high-rise apartment overlooking the lights of Manhattan, Liam Carter stood by the window, a glass of scotch in hand. He normally found comfort in the skyline, neon lights, distant sirens, the buzz of a city that never slept. But tonight, his thought was somewhere else. Emma. She had been unexpected, unfiltered, vulnerable in a way people in his world rarely were. No rehearsed lines, no feigned sophistication. She didn't know who he was, and for once, that had been refreshing. Back in her tiny apartment across the river, Emma flopped face first onto the couch and let out a groan into a pillow. Her roommate, Julia, peeked over her laptop, eyebrow raised. Yikes! That bad? Emma sat up, still red-faced. Worse! I sat at the wrong table and had an entire date with the wrong guy, thinking he was Ryan. Julia burst out laughing. Oh my God! What happened? I told him everything. Julia, he was so sweet. We laughed. We talked. I liked him. Then I get the text from the real Ryan, and I just bolted out of there like a maniac. Julia smirked. Girl, that's a rom-com setup if I've ever heard one. Emma groaned again, pulling the pillow over her face. I just hope I never see him again. You sure about that? Julia teased. You said he was nice. Emma peeked out from the pillow. He was. Too nice, which just makes it worse. Julia shrugged. Maybe it's not the end of the world. People make mistakes. And if he was that nice, maybe he didn't mind at all. The next morning, Liam sat in his office, a wall of glass behind him framing the hazy skyline. His assistant, Claire, stood beside his desk, rattling off his packed schedule for the day. Lunch with Rothman at. Cancel it, Liam interrupted, not looking up from his laptop. Claire paused, blinking. Everything okay? You seemed distracted since last night. Liam's fingers hovered over the keyboard. Something happened, he said quietly, and I don't know why I can't stop thinking about it. Liam hesitated, his eyes drifting to the window as if searching for the right word somewhere beyond the skyline. I met someone, he said at last. Claire, his assistant, arched an eyebrow. Accidentally. He leaned back in his chair, folding his hands in thought. She thought I was someone else. We talked for a while. She doesn't know who I am, and for the first time in years, it felt normal. Claire set her clipboard down slowly. And now, I want to see her again, Liam said, the words simple but heavy with intent. A flicker of a smile tugged at Claire's lips. Okay, and how exactly do you plan on doing that? I have an idea, he said, standing up. Later that day, as the lunch crowd thinned and the scent of fried food clung to her clothes, Emma was wiping down the counter at the diner when her phone buzzed. The number was unfamiliar. Hi, Emma. This is Liam. I was the guy you talked to at the restaurant the other night. I know it was a mix-up, but I'd like to see you again. Maybe coffee? Emma stared at the message, her chest tightening with surprise. Liam? That wasn't Kevin's friend, was it? That night, curled up on the couch, she showed the text to Julia. What do I even say? Emma asked, unsure. Julia grinned. You say yes, obviously. What's the worst that could happen? Emma bit her lip, hesitating, then typed back. Okay, coffee sounds nice. The cafe Liam picked wasn't trendy or expensive, just quiet, cozy, and a little tucked away from the city's buzz. When Emma arrived, he was already seated, dressed casually in jeans and a button-down, looking worlds away from the suited man she had met days ago. Hey, she said, sliding into the seat across from him. Hi, he replied, his smile easy. Thanks for agreeing to meet. Emma shrugged, fiddling with her scarf. I figured I owed you an apology for, running out like a lunatic. No apology needed, Liam said sincerely. Honestly, I'm glad you did. Otherwise, I might never have had a reason to text you. They ordered their drinks, and the conversation settled into a rhythm neither of them expected. Liam's humor was dry but warm, and he listened more than most. He asked about her art, her family, her day job. So what do you really do? Emma asked after a while, tilting her head. I work in tech, Liam said, keeping it vague. Startups, mostly. That sounds complicated. It can be, he admitted, but I like it. As the afternoon wore on, Liam found himself drawn into Emma's world, a world where things didn't revolve around status or money. She spoke of her mother's health issues, her 2 jobs, and a dream of opening a small art studio one day. "You're incredibly resilient," Liam said, genuinely admiring her strength. Emma gave a soft laugh. "Resilient or stubborn depends on who you ask." That evening, back at the office, Claire cornered Liam by the elevator. "You've been out all day," she said, arms folded. "What's going on with this woman?" Liam ran a hand through his hair, sighing. "She's different, Claire." "And you're still not telling her who you are?" she asked pointedly. "Not yet," he said. "I want her to know me, not my bank account." Claire's gaze softened, but her tone stayed firm. "She's going to find out eventually, Si. And if she does, and it doesn't come from you, it won't end well." Liam nodded, the weight of truth settling on his shoulders. But he wasn't ready. Not yet. He wasn't ready to risk losing the first honest connection he'd felt in years. A few days later, Emma walked into the cafe again, her nerves steadier this time. She spotted Liam at the back corner, dressed down in a soft gray sweater and jeans. The Polish businessman look was gone, replaced by something warmer, more him. "Hey," she greeted. "Hi," Liam replied, his voice low but full of welcome. "Glad you came." "It's not every day a stranger from a restaurant sends you a text," she said, trying to sound casual. "I was curious." "I'm glad curiosity won," he said, smiling. The 2 of them talked for hours. Emma shared stories she hadn't told in a long time, about how she used to draw on the backs of homework sheets, how her father once told her she saw the world differently, and how art became her way to make sense of everything. Liam listened, truly listened. "You're passionate," he said quietly, "and it shows." Emma looked down, cheeks flushing. "It's all I've ever wanted." "And you'll get there," Liam said with quiet certainty. After their coffee, Emma led him through a quiet park not far from her apartment, a hidden gem filled with winding trails and crooked benches. She pulled out a small sketchbook from her bag. "This is where I come when I need to clear my head," she said, flipping to a page filled with sketches, faces, trees, street scenes alive with motion and soul. Liam studied her drawings with awe. "These are incredible. You should be selling these." Emma smiled softly. "Maybe one day. For now, they're just for me." As they strolled, she stopped at a bench facing a small pond where a child tossed bread to a flock of ducks. She pulled out a pencil and began to draw, eyes narrowed in focus, hands moving fluidly. Liam sat beside her, watching quietly. "You're amazing," he said. Emma glanced at him. "I'm just sketching." "No," Liam replied, his gaze unwavering. "It's more than that." A few days later, Liam offered to help Emma with her groceries after a quick lunch. "You're going to regret this," she joked as they stood in line at the discount market. "Why is that?" "These bags are heavier than they look," she warned, laughing. When they reached her apartment, Liam carried most of the bags up 3 flights of stairs without complaint. The hallway lights flickered, and the paint was peeling. "This place has character," Liam said diplomatically. Emma laughed. "That's the nicest way anyone's ever described it." Inside, the apartment was small but cozy. Art supplies cluttered the corners, and the walls were lined with taped-up sketches. It was chaotic, but full of life. Liam felt a strange ache in his chest. She had so little, and yet her space was overflowing with meaning. As they unpacked the groceries, Emma talked about her mom, how she used to sit with her while she drew as a child, how she'd always supported her dreams, even while battling illness. "It's tough sometimes," Emma admitted, "but she's my rock. I don't know who I'd be without her." Liam nodded, watching her with quiet admiration. This woman, in her tiny apartment with chipped tiles and no elevator, was stronger than most people he knew in boardrooms. One evening, Emma invited Liam to an art gallery opening she'd been looking forward to. As they wandered through the exhibits, Emma's eyes lit up with each painting they passed. Her energy filled the room more vividly than the colors on the canvas. Liam didn't say much, but he didn't need to. He was too captivated by the way she moved through the exhibit, like each piece whispered something only she could hear. They stopped before a large painting near the back of the gallery, an oil piece of a father and daughter sitting at the edge of a quiet lake, fishing rods in hand, the water painted in strokes of gold and blue. The air between them changed. Emma's breath caught. "What is it?" Liam asked softly, stepping a little closer. Her voice was barely above a whisper. "It reminds me of my dad. We used to go fishing every summer, just the two of us, before everything got complicated." Her eyes shimmered, the emotion surfacing quicker than she expected. She wiped at her cheek, embarrassed. "Sorry, that's silly." "It's not silly at all," Liam said gently. Without thinking, he reached out and placed a hand on her shoulder. His touch was steady, warm. "He'd be proud of you." Emma looked up at him, her defenses gone. For a fleeting moment, the gallery disappeared. There was no noise, no crowd, just a space between them, charged with something real. As they walked back through the city streets, Emma's thoughts tangled like thread. Liam, Kevin, as she still believed, had somehow become more than a passing mistake. He made her feel seen, heard, but a voice inside reminded her, "He's not from your world." "I don't get it," she said aloud, her tone breaking the quiet. Liam glanced sideways. "Don't get what?" She stopped walking. "Why you're spending time with me? You could be doing anything, with anyone. Why me?" Liam paused, guilt pressing in around the edges of his calm. But he didn't look away. "Because I like being around you," he said simply. "Isn't that enough?" Emma gave a faint smile, but didn't answer. Her doubts weren't gone. They just went quiet for a while. That night, back in his penthouse, Liam sat alone, the skyline stretching endlessly outside his window. The city lights used to calm him, but tonight they blurred into a haze. He knew it. He couldn't keep pretending. Sooner or later, the truth would surface. But the thought of losing her kept him frozen. He just wasn't ready to let her go. Across town, Emma curled up on the couch, legs tucked under her as she sipped tea and scrolled through her phone. She paused on a headline that made her blink. "Liam Parker expands tech philanthropy to youth programs." Curious, she tapped the article. There he was, in a crisp suit, standing at a podium, all sharp lines and confidence. The face was unmistakable. "Julia," Emma called out, holding up the screen. "Hey, does this guy look like Kevin to you?" Julia looked up from the puzzle she was piecing together at the kitchen table. "Let me see." She squinted, then laughed. "Oh, definitely not. That guy's like a billionaire or something, right? Kevin's way more low-key." Emma nodded, but the resemblance gnawed at her. She shook it off. "Don't be ridiculous," she told herself. A few days later, Emma invited Liam to her apartment for dinner. She wanted to thank him for the encouragement, for being there, for believing in her art when she barely believed in it herself. When Liam arrived with a bundle of wildflowers in hand, Emma blinked in surprise. "You didn't have to bring anything." "Call it a thank you," he said, smiling as he handed her the flowers, "for inviting me over." The meal was simple, spaghetti and garlic bread served on mismatched plates, but the warmth between them made it feel like a feast. As they ate, Emma talked excitedly about a local art competition she planned to enter, something she wouldn't have dared without his encouragement. "You've done so much for me," she said, eyes soft. "Not just with the art stuff. You're just so humble. It's refreshing." Liam's smile faltered, just for a split second, before he quickly took a sip of water and nodded. "I'm just being myself," he said. But inside, the lie clawed at him. She trusted him, looked up to him, and everything she believed about him was built on a false foundation. Still, he told himself the same lie he'd been telling for weeks. Not yet, just a little longer. But truth is a way of showing up, whether you're ready or not. A week later, Emma was volunteering at a high-profile charity auction, helping to organize items, greet donors, and make the event feel seamless. It was something she loved, giving back, being useful. She was arranging a table near the silent auction when a hush rolled through the crowd like a wave. "Who's that?" a volunteer whispered, nodding toward the entrance. Emma turned, and her stomach dropped. There he was, Liam, but not the Liam she knew. This Liam wore a tailored suit that cost more than her rent. He moved through the room with effortless grace, shaking hands, exchanging smiles. The event organizer approached the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome tonight's guest of honor, Mr. Liam Parker, whose generosity made this evening possible. Applause erupted around the ballroom. Emma's world tilted. Liam Parker. Not Kevin. Not some quiet tech startup guy. Here's the Liam Parker, the man in the article, the billionaire, and he'd lied. She waited until the crowd thinned before approaching him. He stood near a group of donors, the image of composed charm, until his eyes landed on her. They widened just enough. "Emma, we need to talk," she said, her voice sharp but even. He followed her into a quiet hallway outside the ballroom. Emma crossed her arms. "So, you're Liam Parker, the billionaire. Want to tell me why you lied to me for weeks?" Liam exhaled, running a hand through his hair. "I never meant for it to go that far. When we first met, it was a mistake. You thought I was someone else. But talking to you, it was the first time someone didn't look at me and see money. You saw me, and I didn't want to lose that." Emma's jaw clenched. "So instead, you just played along? Let me fall for someone who doesn't exist?" "No," Liam said quickly, stepping closer. "Everything I said, everything we shared, that was real. I just didn't know how to tell you the truth without ruining it." "You mean without shattering the illusion?" she said, her voice rising. "Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? I trusted you, Liam. I thought you were different." "I am different," he said, voice cracking just slightly. "Emma, you're the only one who's ever seen me for who I am, not what I own. I didn't want to lose that." Tears welled in her eyes, but she held them back. She shook her head slowly. "You already have." And with that, she turned and walked away, quick, firm steps echoing down the hallway. Liam stood there, arm half lifted, as if to stop her, but he knew there was nothing he could say to unbreak what had been broken. That night, Emma sat in her room, her sketchbook open on her lap, but the pages remained blank. She couldn't draw, couldn't think, only feel anger, betrayal, heartbreak. The man she had begun to believe in had never truly existed. Or maybe he had, but he'd been hidden behind a wall of lies. Jenny knocked gently on Emma's door before poking her head inside. "You okay?" Emma shook her head, a single tear slipping down her cheek. "No, not really." Jenny came in without another word, wrapping her arms around her and pulling her close. The silence said enough. "Do you want to talk about it?" Emma hesitated, her voice a fragile whisper. "I don't know if I was falling for him, or the version of him I thought I knew." Jenny hugged her tighter. "Whatever it was, you deserve someone who's honest with you. Don't settle for anything less." Later that night, Emma lay on her back staring at the ceiling, her thoughts chasing themselves in circles. Liam had been charming, kind, and generous, but the betrayal, it had cut deep. She needed to heal, and she needed to do it without him. Across the city, Liam sat at his desk, the lights of Manhattan twinkling in the distance like distant stars. Usually, the view gave him comfort. Not tonight. He could still hear her voice. "You already have." The weight of those words pressed down hard. He hadn't just lied. He'd broken the trust of the only person who had seen him, not as a billionaire, not as a name in a headline, but as a man. "I have to fix this," he muttered. His assistant, Claire, entered with a steaming cup of coffee. "Long night?" she asked, raising an eyebrow as she placed a cup beside him. Liam looked up, eyes clearer than they'd been in days. "I need your advice." Claire blinked. "That's new." "It's about Emma." He told her everything, how it started, where it went wrong, how he couldn't let her go. Claire listened carefully, then nodded. "If she's as special as you say, don't tell her. Show her. Actions speak louder than sorrows." The next day, Liam showed up at Emma's apartment. To his surprise, Jenny answered. "You've got some nerve," she said, arms crossed. "I need your help," Liam said earnestly. "Please." Jenny stared at him a long moment, then sighed. "You've got 5 minutes." Inside, Liam laid out his plan. He wanted to buy out the small neighborhood gallery Emma had always dreamed about owning and turn it into a showcase of her work. Every sketch, every piece he quietly collected or copied from her portfolios, he wanted it all on display. "I want her to see that I believe in her," Liam said, voice low. and that I'll do whatever it takes to make things right. Jenny studied him with quiet intensity. Then, finally, she nodded. She deserves someone who fights for her. Don't screw this up. It took weeks of planning. Liam worked directly with the gallery owner to purchase the space. He hired curators and lighting designers, making sure every piece of Emma's artwork, portraits, cityscapes, whimsical sketches, was showcased beautifully. On the day of the reveal, Liam placed a single handwritten note at the center of the room. Then he quietly left before she arrived. Emma was walking home from work when Jenny intercepted her outside the subway. "You need to come with me," Jenny said, urgency in her tone. "What? Why?" Emma asked, frowning. "Just trust me." Confused, Emma followed her down a familiar street. When they stopped in front of the little gallery she'd walked past 1,000 times, Emma froze. There on the door was a sign. Special exhibit, The Art of Emma Brooks. Her heart leapt into her throat. She stepped inside slowly. The gallery glowed with soft light. Every wall, every frame, every canvas was hers. Her work, the pieces she had sketched in silence over the years, tucked away in drawers or scribbled in the margins of notebooks. Now they stood tall, framed, honored. At the center of the room sat a small pedestal with a folded note. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. "Your art deserves a world. Just like you deserve honesty, love, and someone who sees you for who you are. Let me try again." Liam, tears welled in her eyes as she looked around. Each piece was a mirror of her journey, her pain, her joy, her hope. And then he stepped out from behind the partition. Liam. His expression was cautious, but open, hopeful. "Emma," he said, his voice steady despite the emotion behind it. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I couldn't let you go without showing you what you mean to me." Emma turned to face him, her tears falling freely now. "You broke my trust, Liam," she said quietly. "I don't know if I can ever forget that." He nodded, his gaze unwavering. "I know, but I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you, if you'll let me. You're the only thing in my life that's ever felt real." She looked away, her heart twisting in two directions. "You made me feel like I wasn't enough, like you didn't trust me with the truth." "That wasn't it," Liam said, his voice cracking just slightly. "I was scared. Scared you'd look at me differently, that you'd walk away before I ever had the chance to prove myself to you." Emma hesitated. She loved him. She knew that now. But trust, that was harder. "Maybe," she whispered at last, "maybe some things are worth a second chance." Liam's eyes lit up. "But," she added, raising a hand, "I'm not saying it'll be easy. If we do this, it's on my terms. You earn it, every step." "That's all I could ever ask for," Liam said. They stood there, surrounded by Emma's art, the gallery alive with the stories she had once only whispered to herself. For the first time in weeks, the air between them no longer felt broken, but like something waiting to begin again. That night, Emma sat at a bedroom window, Liam's note in her lap. She read the words over and over, the ink now smudged slightly by her fingers. "Let me try again." It wasn't just a grand gesture. It was a truth. He had seen her, believed in her, even when she couldn't believe in herself. Her phone buzzed with a message. "I'll be at the cafe tomorrow. Same table, just in case." Emma didn't reply right away. But the next afternoon, she found herself walking through the familiar door, her heart fluttering with every step. Liam sat at the same table where it all began. Jeans, button-down shirt, hands nervously wrapped around a coffee cup. He stood when he saw her. "Emma," he said, voice soft. She smiled, just a little, and sat down across from him. And just like that, they began again. Liam's voice was steady, but the emotion behind it cracked through. "I didn't know if you'd come," he said quietly. Emma took a seat across from him, her fingers wrapped around the warm cup of coffee. "I almost didn't," she replied honestly, meeting his gaze. "But I've spent these past few weeks asking myself one thing. Can I trust you again?" Liam didn't speak. He only listened. Emma's voice was calm but resolute. "And I realized something. I don't need grand gestures. I don't need flowers or galleries or anything money can buy. I just need honesty. That's it." Liam leaned forward, eyes locked on hers. "You have my word," he said. "No more secrets. No more pretending. Just me, only me, for as long as you'll have me." Emma studied him for a long moment. The man across from her wasn't hiding anymore. There were no walls, no masks, no lies, just truth. She gave a faint nod. "Okay," she whispered. "Let's try again." Liam's shoulders dropped as if he'd been holding his breath for weeks. A smile, real and rare, broke across his face. And for the first time in a long time, Emma smiled back. Months passed. The doors of the Brooks Collective opened to a crowd of curious art lovers, friends, family, and fellow dreamers. Inside, paintings hung with care, sketches danced in the light, and colors breathed life into every wall. At the heart of it all stood Emma Brooks, radiant in a midnight blue dress, her eyes shining with joy. Around her were pieces not just of art, but of her journey, her struggle, her hope, her voice. And somewhere between the laughter and champagne, she felt a familiar tap on her shoulder. She turned to find Liam, dressed in a tailored suit but wearing that same playful grin she'd grown to love. "Can I borrow you for a moment?" he asked. "You already have me," she said with a smirk. "But sure." He took her hand and led her to the front of the room. The murmurs faded. The crowd turned. Emma glanced around, puzzled. Then Liam turned to her and pulled something small from his pocket, a velvet box. "Emma," he began, his voice calm and sure, "you sat at the wrong table that night, but from the moment you smiled at me, I knew it was a right beginning." The room fell silent. "I love you," he continued, "for your fire, for your kindness, for the way you see beauty in everyone but often forget to see it in yourself. You changed my life and made me want to be the kind of man who deserved to sit at your table." He opened the box. Inside, a delicate ring sparkled beneath the gallery lights. "Emma Brooks, will you marry me?" Tears welled in Emma's eyes, her lips trembling as she laughed through them. "Only if you promise. No more secrets." Liam's voice didn't waver. "I promise." She held out her hand. "Then yes." The wedding was simple, intimate, held right there in the gallery, surrounded by the colors of her dreams and the people who believed in them. Her mother cried softly in the front row. Jenny gave a toast that left everyone laughing through tears. And Liam? Liam made a silent vow, not just to Emma, but to her vision. He donated a large part of his fortune to the gallery's outreach, making sure that young, unknown artists would always have a place to be seen, to be heard, to be believed in. As the sun set behind the city skyline, golden light poured through the gallery windows. Emma and Liam stood in the center of the room, holding each other gently as their first dance began. "I'm glad I sat at the wrong table," Emma whispered. Liam smiled, his lips brushing her ear. "It was the best mistake we ever made." Scroll moral of the story. Sometimes the best things in life come disguised as mistakes. Emma and Liam's story reminds us that love isn't about perfection, it's about truth. Trust may bend, but when rebuilt with honesty, patience, and heart, it becomes stronger than it ever was. In a world obsessed with status and appearance, this story reminds us what truly matters. To be seen, to be loved, to be chosen, just as you are. And if you're lucky enough to find that at the wrong table, maybe it was the right place all along.